Good afternoon. Today I'm presenting the article which is about international news outlets based in Qatar, which was published on June 30th, 2026 by reporter John Power. So the title is EU is getting tough on China as the trade imbalance stokes international fears. And it basically covers how the European Union is confronting the rapid growth and trade imbalance from China and what this means for European factories, jobs, and the industrial policies. So, in this situation, China's trade is making an insane surplus, which the EU hits 360.6 billion euros in 2025, and that's about $411 billion up from the 15% year before. This is because Chinese companies now dominate European supplies in solar panels, rare earth chemicals, and industrial robots. Even though the EU is already has tariffs ups, well, already has tariffs up by 35% on Chinese electric vehicles. Brands like BYD and Chery are already crossing the 10% of EU auto sales in this May. The fallout has become pretty serious as Volkswagen has reported wage cuts of up to 100,000 jobs and about 15% of their workforce. For the four numbers here are really going to tell the story. 360 billion euro trade surplus from China is a 35% is already from a 35% tariff ceiling, and has not stopped Chinese EV brands from crossing into the EU markets, which is already 10% up from last year. On the other side, that the competition is on the other side, competition has created hundreds and thousands of potential job cuts, which even further lowers the EU trade imbalance. Volkswagen also has created a lot of tension through the center of the story, where tariffs were supposed to protect European companies, but they're not fully working, and the cost of that is showing up fast. So this connects directly to Chapter 6, covering international trade barriers, and EU's 35% tariff on Chinese EVs is basically a classic tariff barrier trying to raise the prices of imports and protect domestic automakers. But the EU's reaching a non-tariff barrier. It's proposed that in industries, an industry accelerator act would favor EU to make goods, but it's not currently working as well as it was supposed to. Together, this shows that the chapter's distinction between tariffs and non-tariff barriers uh, really captures how the border shifts from free trade towards protectionism, because China's state is really just destroying the competition through these cheap EVs. This also connects the concept in our economy, um, where the article attributes China's export surge to what is called the subsidization of industries and economics of scale, basically meaning that prices don't just reflect how don't reflect efficiency; they also reflect government support. If China's government is supporting the industries much more than EU, then they're going to push past EU's tariffs even when they're being raised. Automakers can't just compete with costs against subsidized prices, no matter how effective they are. And this shifts the supply and demand exactly that's hitting Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes lower and pushing Chinese manufacturers higher. The real job cuts and pauses are really destroying EU's markets, and these pushes down end up shooting China's market even further into the sky. So, why does this matter? EU is genuinely caught between two different problems: being a defender of free trade against Trump's era of protectionism with his tariffs, while also trying to defend their own markets and save domestic industries. Tariffs alone can't clear this problem and won't stop Chinese EV brands from gaining ground. Both sides of the stories insist that they are trying to avoid a full-blown trade war, which more talks about this are scheduled in October, but the story is still live. It's a live example of how the tensions between global trade and domestic protections which we are studying all along are continuing to arise. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.